Hi, this is Ken Riley back to talk a little fantasy football. We had our auto draft on Tuesday, so I thought we'd take a quick look at the first round of the draft. And let's see what happened to all the Vikings players and Denver players. So let's jump right in. It looks like Black Betty's drew the first round pick, first overall, and went with Arian Foster, which in most fantasy leagues is probably the #1 pick. Right after that, we have Merlin and Nita, who get to root for the Packers this year. They drafted Aaron Rodgers. That guy puts up numbers. It's almost hard to watch how well he throws the ball around as a Minnesota fan. Followed by Kim getting Ray Rice. That's a strong pick. He puts up good numbers year after year. Russ getting LaShawn McCoy. That's a guy I bid for in my other league. I hope he has a good year. Then we got a few quarterbacks going off the board, so can't go wrong with Tom Brady or Drew Brees. Shell, I hope the Saints don't falter this year after the bounty incidents and all the penalties they have, but you never know. Then we got Rick picking up Matthew Stafford, who last year blew up and had great numbers. So previous to that, he had issues staying on the field, so hopefully he can stay on the field for you this year, Rick. Then we got Tim pulling the first wide receiver off the board, by far the #1 wide receiver, Calvin Johnson. Helped me win the Super Bowl last year in my other fantasy league. Then for the last two picks, I get Cam Newton. He had a great rookie year as a quarterback, so hopefully he continues to improve as a passer this year while still rushing for some yards. And then Bill and Carol, a.k.a. Bernie's, also known as Mom and Dad, pick up Chris Johnson at the #10 pick. He typically has been a top 2 or 3 running back over the years. He had a drop-off last year after his holdouts, so if he comes back to form, he could end up being a great pick for them. So that's the first round of the draft. Let's go ahead and take a look at all of the results, more specifically who of the Vikings fans and the Denver fan that we have in our league, who got distributed there. So Russ got Kyle Rudolph, which I believe he started this week because Witten was struggling with some spleen issues. Let's see here. Tim gets Adrian Peterson, so Tim will have to decide if he sits Adrian for a week or two until he gets healthier. Shelley got the lucky draw of Percy Harvin. I think he'll be a strong wide receiver. Even as a Vikings fan, I didn't realize he ended up being a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football last year. So some feel like he could have even a stronger year this year. Then we got, looks like Shelley even has Toby Gerhardt. He could be a start for a couple weeks here while Adrian Peterson gets healthy. So she has some choices there. And that's it for the Minnesota players. For sake of JR, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got for some Denver players. Peyton Manning being the big one. Let's see if he can continue to perform on a new team after having neck issues last year. He sat out all of last year. So Tim could have some trade bait here if he wants to. If JR wants to stack his team with some Denver players, Tim could offer him up Peyton Manning, especially since it looks like Tim has a decent backup in Joe Flacco. A few other Denver players we've got. Willis McGahee should be a decent running back. Tight end, not too much to talk about there. Eric Decker is an interesting one. So unfortunately, Merlin and Nita will have to root for Aaron Rodgers, but on the plus side, they get a former Gopher wide receiver. Eric Decker should be an excellent wide receiver this year, playing for the Denver Broncos. And then it looks like JR did end up with a couple Denver Broncos through the auto draft, so that worked out all right. Demaryius Thomas is a good wide receiver. He'll be #1 or #2 right next to Eric Decker, and he gets a little kicker action in there. So for those Viking fans that would like a Viking or two on their roster, there's a few easy options there if you want to pick up their defense or the Vikings kicker, the rookie kicker. Those aren't bad options to throw on your team. Other than that, I don't know if we have too many other players unless we have some other wide receivers that might step up and be an okay fantasy option. So that's a quick look at the auto draft. I'll post another video that shows you how to set your lineup. So go ahead and as soon as you're done watching this video, I'll shortly post another video on how to look at your lineup and set the correct starters for this week and every week. Have a good season.